Hi, everybody. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to tell you everything that's going up, update you on the goings-on with our Department of Education here at the Center for Inquiry. And as we go through this presentation, I also want to bring up this, because when I have one-on-one conversations with people here over the years at SciCon, Bertha, you guys really need to teach critical thinking in schools. So I'm going to ask you this question when I bring up some lessons from the different programs. If you see this icon or this little guy, I'm asking you, do you think that's critical thinking? And I want a show of hands when we get to those. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the programs. TIES was established in 2015. It's like the first program that we had here. And it's all about helping teachers teach evolution, right, with good resources. It started off kind of like a middle school program. It's still fundamentally a middle school program, but we are also helping high school and elementary school teachers. It did come to the CFI. It started under the Richard Dawkins Foundation and came under the umbrella of CFI. ScienceSaves, I love. ScienceSaves is, whoops, can't do that, near and dear to my heart. It's promoting science appreciation. But of course, teachers don't have to teach science appreciation. So it's like broccoli in your children's food. We sneak it in by teaching data skills or graphing or content. And finally, Generation Skeptics. ScienceSaves is like 2022. Generation Skeptics started last year. We rebranded it from Young Skeptics. And it's your quintessential CFI program. I don't have to explain it to you. It's everything that we've been talking about in this conference. And everything we offer our teachers is free, and that's thanks to all of you. So thank you as a teacher to you, thank you. Let's give you a little bit more about each program. TIES covers resources, workshops, but we also have live webinars, which are for everyone, not just teachers and their students, where they can interact with scientists and authors. And as Jim was saying, we published a book. I could not choose the cover. I couldn't decide which animal I wanted on the cover, so they let me put them all. I couldn't decide. Let me show you. These are, I think the best way to show you is pictures. I taught, for example, I had to teach everything, right? So if I made a mistake teaching weather, no one was going to come at me. You don't teach occluded fronts correctly. But evolution's different. And if you're not too confident about your evolution background, your content, you might get other teachers coming at you or parents coming at you. And since teachers are by nature risk averse, you're just going to avoid the topic. So our idea was give teachers content and make them more confident in the topic. And I can tell you, you teach what you love, you teach what you're confident in much better than what you're not. I was a better biology teacher than meteorology teacher. Here's some more pictures for you. And incidentally, I had to show you there is a TIES presenter here. Kathleen, are you around? Who is the only presentation we've ever had in a church. She presented in a church in Kansas. This is in 2017. But what teachers do is they try out the resources, and what's going to happen is that's going to translate into the classroom. So the same things that you saw the teachers doing, here you see some of the kids doing as well. ScienceSaves. ScienceSaves has three main projects. There they are. Let me tell you a little bit about each one. National Science Appreciation Day is March 26th. And it's based on the fact that in 1953, that's the year Jonas Salk revealed his successful development of his polio vaccine. You see a QR code there? That's to ask your state, it's a petition to ask your state to declare March 26th, hey, science rules, and you're promoting National Science Appreciation Day. Feel free to take out your phones. I was a middle school science teacher. I'm very used to people taking their phones out in class and not paying attention to a word I say, so I'm okay with that. And boy, does science save. Since that day, we have decreased global polio cases by more than 99%. That's so powerful. 20 million people that would have been paralyzed are not, and over 1.5 million lives have been saved. I want to prove to you my bona fides, why I love this program, why I should be directing this program because this is a photo of my grandfather in 1955. It's the guy on your left opening the first box of polio vaccine arriving in Havana, Cuba in 1955. He was a pediatrician. So that's why I'm here. He was my pediatrician my whole life until he passed away, actually. These are cool, huh? These are the state proclamations. Every state does it a little differently, and I just wanted to share them for you because I think they're with you because they're quite colorful and pretty. So the second thing is a scholarship. We give away $15,000 every year, thanks to the ScienceSaves and the Stifle Free Thought Foundation, to high school seniors who can tell us in 30 seconds or less how science has improved their life or the life of someone they know. I think the best way to show you these is let the kids show, let me show you some of these videos, because it really makes you feel good. This is our first place winner this year from Iowa.
The typical male aortic valve is 31 millimeters. My grandfather's was 9. On August 30th, 2022, my 85-year-old grandfather had a transcatheter aortic valve replacement to correct his severe bicuspid aortic valve that developed severe stenosis. This technology was pioneered in 2002 by Dr. A. Krebier. The FDA approved it for low-risk patients in 2019. A bicuspid aortic valve is a hereditary condition. Science saved my grandfather's life and may be needed to save mine too. Science saves.
Hi,
Nice.
I'm Isabel, and science.
Let me just pause him here. This is last year's winner.
Hi, I'm Okezle Bell, and science has been the way through which I've been able to give back to the world, whether that be developing a microfinancing platform for the unbanked or helping over 70,000 educationally underserved individuals through STEM workshops. It's been the way that I take my research from bench to bedside and actually make science actionable in people's lives. One notable way that I've done this is by developing the WE-arm, which is a low-cost prosthetic arm for individuals with below-the-elbow amputations. Hashtag ScienceSaves because it's now being piloted in places like Ukraine to help limb loss patients. Okezle Bell, and science is...
So as you can see, very different approach. One was very personal and one was more overall science. The next is a second place winner from our first year, 2022.
Hi.
Isn't that great? I love that one. This is what I envisioned when I was first told about Science Saves. It's a true story. When I lived on and off in France and Spain in my 20s, and I used to walk through cemeteries and ask this question.
Have you ever walked through the children's section of a centuries-old cemetery? There are so many children's graves. Children died of smallpox, cholera, famine, bacterial infections, and unclean water supply. It's heartbreaking to think of all the families who suffered these terrible losses. But if you pay attention, you start to see a pattern in the tiny tombstones. As the years pass, there are fewer tiny tombstones, fewer dead babies, toddlers, and little children, less heartache and loss, more human potential. Why? Here's a graph of the percentage of children who made it to their 5th birthday from the year 1800 to 2020. In 1800, close to half of all children in the United States died before their 5th birthday. But life-saving scientific breakthroughs soon started to make a difference. For example, in 1850, Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis discovered the importance of washing hands to remove infectious particles. From 1851 to 1855, over 99% of the infants in his care survived, a figure hundreds of times higher than the norm at the time. In 1867, Joseph Lister introduced antiseptics, also saving thousands of lives. These methods, along with better sanitation in cities, saved thousands of children from cholera and other deadly waterborne diseases. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin to fight off bacterial infections like pneumonia and meningitis. To date, this breakthrough has saved over 200 million lives. In 1955, Jonas Salk gave us the polio vaccine, preventing an estimated 1.5 million childhood deaths worldwide. In 1963, Norman Borlaug used science to improve important crop yields like wheat. He is credited with saving upwards of 1 billion lives worldwide. Technology, safer products, modern medicine, humans have used science to improve the lives of all of us. Today, millions more children celebrate their 5th birthdays. Scientists and engineers have made this reality possible. And it's not just children. Adults can expect longer, less difficult lives thanks to science. Science saves. It's literally written in stone.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that great? So, yeah, I love that video, and it's literally written in stone, and that's what I realized when in my morbid walks through the cemeteries. Someone reached out to me to make a book, children's book about it, but they said, Bertha, you have to get rid of the cemetery scene. So we're going to work on that. Finally, the third program, which I said started in August of last year, is Generation Skeptics. And we have lessons on GMOs. We have lessons on climate denial. We have lessons on finding credible sources, AI, ghosts, and things like that. Going to scroll a little bit. But we also do student programs with Generation Skeptics. In the last year, I visited 30 summer camp. I've had 30 summer camp or classroom visits. So this program is the most child-centered of the three. The other two, well, actually, ScienceSaves with the scholarship is pretty student-centered as well, so I shouldn't say that. But I've been visiting a lot of classrooms and stuff. That's called skeptical birding. This happened last week. Thanks to Susan Gerbic, I was invited to speak to a group of high school evangelical young earth creationists. Let me just say, I was more nervous speaking to them than this huge crowd here today. And I kept saying to the pastor, are you sure? Are you sure I can say whatever I want? Don't you people like homeschool your kids and don't let them talk to people like me? And you know what? They were lovely. They were lovely kids. We had a great thing. Boy, they were raring for a fight, but it went really well. Let me give you some numbers. Generation Skeptics. Last year, 1 year, we've had 32 workshops in 18 U.S. states. Who does this? I train other teachers to do this. I don't go to all those states, by the way. I work one-on-one with many different presenters. We send them the materials and train them. They have videos, etc. ScienceSaves, we've had 2 years, 63 workshops, 30 U.S. states. And of course, the big success story, because it's been going on for 9 years, ta-da! 322 workshops, 91 presenters, 50 U.S. states. I'm exhausted, but it's well worth it. Think of all those teachers. We're talking thousands and thousands of teachers going back into their classrooms with much better resources to teach evolution. So let's go back to this question. Because to quote one of my favorite movies, you keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means, okay? What is critical thinking, okay? Let me show you a lesson from each of the 3 programs, and you're going to tell me if that is critical thinking. This is the skull comparison lab for ties. Very expensive lab, so I developed it in a way that you can do it for free. It's downloadable and it's for free. These are the things that the class has to compare in those 7 species that you saw. Let me show you pictures of the kids doing it. These happen to be my kids because I got permission to use them. So there's your skulls. I happen to have a very expensive, those are $700 worth of skulls there, but you don't need them. You don't need them to do this, but I have them, so. They're making all those data things that you saw. They're discussing, they're disagreeing, and they're drawing conclusions. Oh, the Smithsonian has an amazing 3D skull collection. Every skull you want is there. These are the skulls that we give away when we do this lesson. And basically, the takeaway is what happened to the human skull because of bipedalism, because of our diet, because of our big brains. And no, it's not a ladder of progress. It's more like a family tree. Is that critical thinking? Raise your hand if that lab is critical thinking, like drawing, seeing evidence, collecting evidence, drawing conclusions. Boy, you are a tough crowd. You don't think that's critical thinking? Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe we don't teach critical thinking in schools. Here's one from ScienceSaves. Remember the video? We teach kids how to graph, right? So they have to learn to graph, and then they have to draw conclusions from the graph. What trends do you see? Why do you see these trends? How does it impact society? So taking it to the next level and drawing greater conclusions from that. Is that critical thinking? Raise your hand if you think that's critical thinking. So you were scared to raise your hand before, because I've messed you up. There's an extension to this where we determine what's the difference between correlation and causation. There's another one. Is that critical thinking, to teach kids that? Okay, I'm breathing better now. And here's our Generation Skeptics one. It's based on a wonderful article in the Skeptical Inquirer by Melanie Tresick-King, How to Sell Pseudoscience. We teach the kids the techniques that scammers use to sell pseudoscience. We show them some real examples, and then they make their own ads. So next time they go to Whole Foods, they recognize what is pseudoscience. Is that critical thinking? Okay, we're getting there. So I did the same thing. I asked teachers, what is critical thinking? I want to thank Melanie and Daniel Reed, who's here too. This is the big answer that I got. It's called emergent theme analysis. Thank you, Daniel Reed. And over and over and over, not a big sample size, 50 responses, but this is what teachers kept saying over and over and again. And I think I know why teachers said that. Teachers said that because we are all taught this as teachers, okay? Bloom's taxonomy. And so what you're looking at, the previous slide, you're looking at levels 4, 5, and 6. There's a trend now to eliminate 1 and 2 completely and jump to 3, but that's a talk for another day. I also asked some other things. What is skepticism? I was very happily surprised with this answer, because I know that a lot of people think skeptic means conspiratorial thinking and stuff. To be a skeptical inquirer, I thought they didn't think it was a good thing. I asked, do you teach science inquiry, science denial, pseudoscience? Pretty good numbers, 80% at least mention it. So that was a little better than I expected too. I asked, do you teach about misinformation? Yes, they do. They do teach about misinformation. And so in summary, this is kind of the answers I kept going over and over and over and over again. But now, thanks to this crowd and what I've learned from you, I realized there's something missing there in that what is critical thinking, okay? And because of this, I think this is a very powerful cartoon, very powerful and so true. Because of this and because of this, we really need to talk to our kids about one more thing, which wasn't mentioned very often in my survey of teachers. Only one person said teaching people to identify personal biases, and only one person said identifying flaws in your own thinking. So I have learned this wonderful term, epistemic vigilance. When you encounter new information, you evaluate the source, you evaluate the claim. I think teachers do that. You know what teachers don't do? Evaluate the receiver. Because it is hard to look at yourself in the mirror. And I've been doing this recently, and it's very unpleasant to question your own beliefs. And a lot of you, we've had conversations, a lot of us come from religious backgrounds. I didn't have any, it wasn't difficult for me to leave that one, but we come from religious backgrounds, so you know it's not even difficult. It could be painful to question something you believe. So this is what's missing. This is why, and this has been up in other people's presentation, this is that component that Generation Skeptics is offering that I don't think too many programs are offering. Just like Robin Blumner said the first day, that we're the only foundation going after naturopaths and stuff. We're one of the few, not the only, but one of the few teachers to address personal biases and flaws in our own thinking. Let me tell you about my favorite lab for Generation Skeptics. It's the World to Have Power experiment. Have you seen this on YouTube? It's all over YouTube. You take 2 jars of rice, I am not kidding, and you say, I love you, I hate you. You put them in the same place, and lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the jar that you said, I hate you, is full of mold. And you should see the comments on these videos, and there's tons of them. So we ask students, replicability is important in science. Can you recreate this experiment? Can we test if this is true? And they are obsessed with, it has to be the same jar, and it has to be in the same place, and it has to be the same kind of rice, and it has to be the same amount, but they miss 3 things. First of all, they're trying to prove it right. And in science, you try to prove yourself wrong. Second of all, they give me 1 jar per group. The most I ever got was 30 jars per group, which is a lot. But I say, no, 1,000 jars per group. And the third thing that no one's ever gotten, no kid has ever done, is the person yelling at the rice should not be the same person testing for mold. The double-blind protocol. So we're teaching kids, scientific method isn't just a way to torture you in elementary school with science fair projects. It works. It put guardrails in place against our own biases. Is that critical thinking? I think so. I was about to go, yes? Oh, because I'm so used to when somebody raises their hand, I was about to call on you. No, really, like I'm not making that up. So another problem that I'm addressing is teachers have time constraints, okay? I had so much to cover before that state test. I don't have time to promote science appreciation. I definitely don't have time to look at intellectual humility and address personal biases and all of that. So I've developed bell ringer activities in cooperation with other groups, like One Humanity Education and Melanie, who's here. These are 3-minute activities that you put up in class when the kids are walking in, you're taking attendance, they forgot their phone, they have to go to the bathroom, they have to call their mom, this one has to go to the PE field. While all of that is happening anyway, put up a video, and so I'm using Melanie's videos, for example, 98 videos on logical fallacies. What is pseudoscience? What is science denial? Made up some questions for the videos, and the kids could do that at the beginning of class, before you start your lesson, or at the end of class. And it's avoiding the time constraint issue. I think we're doing a pretty good job getting this idea out there. I'm telling you, teachers, I don't think we knew that we have to talk about that third thing, evaluating the receiver. That book, I was the lead author, it's coming out in February. They let me do an entire chapter on this, on what we do. What if facts don't change minds? You can't change a climate denier's mind with facts. I don't know if that's ever been done. I'm getting published in the National Science Teachers Association magazine this December on the same stuff. Organizations are starting to invite me to speak about this, like the National Middle Level Science Teachers Association, their name is too long. And the Skeptical Inquirer, I think I won, Stephen, by the way, is having, I'm a highly competitive person. There's an article coming out in the next issue all about what we do, so share it with your teacher friends, okay? And I want to thank you for this, I think we're doing a lot here.